General election cannot be held on the 20th of June. 30 fishing vessels carrying over 150 fishermen carried away towards the Indonesian coast by strong waves. Fishermen advised to remain vigilant when setting out to sea. Super Cyclone Humpin makes landfall in India. 6 youth arrested over the alleged sexual abuse of a 15-year-old adolescent. Reconvene Parliament without any delay. Former opposition leader requests government, assuring there will be no attempts for an impeachment or a no-confidence motion. Plight of Maha Nikaya farmers resolved following revelations made by Newsfirst.
Good evening, this is Primetime News on TV1. On to your lead story of the day. The fundamental rights applications filed at the Supreme Court regarding the gazettes issued dissolving Parliament and calling for elections were taken up for consideration to grant leave to proceed. Newsfirst's Charlene Benedict filed this report.
The 5-judge Supreme Court bench headed by Chief Justice Jayanta Jayasuriya today for the third day took up for consideration the fundamental rights applications that have been filed before the Supreme Court. Now, some interesting things that happened today was the fact that President's Counsel Salia Piris, representing the Elections Commission, notified court that the elections will not be able to be held on the 20th of June. Now, he said that he was notified of this matter by the Elections Commission itself. Also making submissions in court today, President's Counsel Vijaydasu Rajapaksa for a respondent said that that the President does not have any power to reconvene Parliament. He also spoke regarding the accepting of nominations and the validity of the nominations which were disputed by the petitioners.
Making submissions on behalf of the 8th petitioner, Attorney at Law Moditha T.B. Ekanayaka argued that the proclamation issued by the President dissolving Parliament is invalid. He also submitted that Article 70, Sub-Article 1, Sub-Article 5 and Article 32, Sub-Article 3 lays down an indispensable and mandatory rule that the Republic cannot function without an active Parliament. Speaking about the powers to handle public finances, he requested the court to give an interpretation to the words public services mentioned in Article 150, Sub-Article 3 of the Constitution, and added that this must be done to preserve the separation of powers and safeguard the rule of law. Appearing for the Elections Commission, Nalin Abesekara and Mahinda Deshapriya, President's Counsel Salia Piris said that the Elections Commission acted in a manner that can be justified in these extraordinary and unprecedented times, and submitted that court must not grant leave to proceed against his clients. He also notified court that the elections cannot be held on the 20th of June as per written instructions given to him by the Elections Commission. President's Counsel M.A. Sumantiran, speaking shortly afterwards, said that he will not continue the fundamental rights petition filed on behalf of Charita Gunaratna, as substantial relief had been granted when court was notified that elections will not be held on the 20th of June. President's Counsel Salia Piris said that the Elections Commission can hold the elections between 9 to 11 weeks from the date that health authorities in the country confirm that the COVID-19 pandemic has been brought under control. He, however, added that there are other factors that could affect the polls, such as a spike in COVID-19 cases in the country. Attorney at Law Astika Devendra, representing Professor Ratnajeevan Hool, a member of the Elections Commission, disputed the validity of the nominations that were accepted on the 17th, 18th and 19th of March. He said that the Elections Commission relied on the media release issued by the Department of Government Information announcing these days as special holidays and not public holidays when deciding to accept the nominations on these days. He added that, however, the Elections Commission later received a Gazette notification declaring these days as public holidays. However, President's Counsel Choksi, representing the 2 other members of the Elections Commission, disputed this claim and submitted that these days were in fact not declared as public holidays but were only named as special holidays. Deputy Solicitor General Indika Demuni de Silva, appearing for the Attorney General, also questioned Attorney at Law Astika Devendra as to how he can dispute the stance of the Elections Commission on accepting nominations while representing a member of the Commission. He responded saying that as his client was named as a separate respondent in the application, he has the right to represent his client's stance in court. Appearing for the Secretary of the Sri Lanka Podujana Peramuna, President's Counsel Vijayadasa Rajapaksa submitted that the arguments made on behalf of the petitioners have no basis in law and therefore they should not be granted leave to proceed. He added that there is no requirement for Parliament to convene within 3 months. He cited Article 104J, incorporated into the Constitution through the 19th Amendment, interpreting the phrase, quote-unquote, during the period of an election, and said that this provision had given the Elections Commission more freedom to conduct the elections without any time constraints that were previously included. Representing the Secretary to the President, P.B. Jayasundara, President's Counsel Romesh De Silva objected to granting leave to proceed on the basis that no expert evidence had been presented to court on why the election cannot be held. He added that the fundamental rights applications were made mala fide and that some of the petitioners had no standing. He concurred with President's Counsel Vijayadasa Rajapaksa on the point that there is no requirement for Parliament to convene within 3 months and called the fundamental rights applications an abuse of the process of court. The petitions will be taken up for consideration again at 10 a.m. tomorrow. Speaking after the proceedings today, President's Counsel M.A. Sumantiran and Attorney at Law Premanath C. Dolavatta expressed these views.
I inform court that we will not pursue that petition anymore because the substantive relief asked for in that petition is only that the election fixed for 20th June be cancelled. But the other petitions seek further reliefs, particularly that since the 3-month period is lapsing on the 2nd of June and there is no possibility of an election happening before that, that the 2nd of March proclamation dissolving Parliament and calling for early election must be declared to be void.
The quorum for the Elections Commission is 3 members. Decisions are made based on the opinion of a majority of the members. Today, submissions were made by separate attorneys for the members of the Elections Commission. One attorney represented Professor Hool, while the other 2 members were represented by 2 attorneys. We wonder why the Independent Elections Commission is acting in this manner. No one has influenced the Elections Commission, forcing them to hold the elections. As candidates and intervenient parties, what we have continued to say is that the lives of the people are our number 1 priority. The Elections Commission can hold the elections according to the guidelines issued by the health authorities. People who wanted to postpone the elections came to court today and requested for relief. On that same note this evening, let's now take a look at some of the views that were expressed in the political arena. The National Elections Commission has informed court that holding an election on the 20th of June is impossible. Moreover, the National Elections Commission has said in order to hold the election, the health authorities have to certify that COVID-19 has been fully eradicated from the country. Only 10 weeks after such a certification, you can hold the election. When we reiterated these facts, the government went against this and tried to hold the election to obtain the 2/3 majority. We thank the National Elections Commission. Now the courts have to determine the legality of the gazette issued by President to dissolve Parliament. At this time, the most suitable thing is to convene Parliament and formulate the necessary laws.
As you know, when a case is being heard, it's been taken up for a long time. Therefore, an election won't be held and the country will be in chaos.
What is the purpose of the National Elections Commission? Is it to hold elections or not hold elections? There are some things we cannot speak before the public. The National Elections Commission has to be on the forefront in order to resolve the issues faced by the people without having a parliament.
We expected a decision from Supreme Court that would protect the people of this country. We are not afraid of the election. We are afraid of the path that lies ahead of us, which will bring destruction upon our country. We are fighting against this traitorous affair carried out by the government.
Today it has been said 10 weeks after the approval given by all relevant entities, the election can be held. I think that is very practical. We bow our heads and thank the National Elections Commission and its chairman for this independent decision they have taken for the people.
We will wait for the verdict of the court. We are ready to bow our heads to the decision given by the court. I would like to tell the government to convene parliament without any delay. Do not be afraid. We will not bring forward a no-confidence motion against the president. We will not bring forward an impeachment against the government or its ministers. The only thing in our mind is to provide concessions to the people. Please convene the parliament immediately. We are ready to allocate the money that is necessary for the livelihood of the people of this country.
Meanwhile, the National Elections Commission said the program to provide the 5,000 rupee allowance for families with no means of income should not be abused in any way to promote political parties or candidates. In a letter to the President, Secretary and several other top government officials, the National Elections Commission said it received a large number of complaints citing the program to provide the 5,000 rupee allowance is being used to promote political parties in government. Further, the NEC requested for the removal of local politicians from all programs related to the provision of the 5,000 rupee allowance. The Met Department says that the impact Sri Lanka will have from the Humpin super cyclone will gradually reduce starting from tomorrow. Rough seas were experienced in the seas of Hambantota today. Wind speeds can be increased up to 40 to 50 kilometers at times over the island. Alton Estate in Nuwara recorded the highest rainfall in the last 24 hours. This is a comprehensive report on the inclement weather in the last 24 hours.
This is the manner in which the bridge that adjoins the Ratnapura, Ovalala and Gallala areas was seen washed away yesterday. We aired this footage yesterday as well. We air this today as well to remind you to be vigilant at these times. This is the current state of the bridge that ran across the Bambarakotua Oya.
The Disaster Management Centre says that more than 7,000 people have been affected due to the inclement weather. The Ratnapura District Office of the Disaster Management Centre said that 3 people had died after heavy rains were experienced in the area. The office noted that 106 families are currently sheltered at 10 safe locations. Flood waters in areas which had been inundated have begun to recede. As a result of this situation, residents had begun cleaning these areas since this morning. Balangoda, an area that also experienced heavy floodings, has begun to return to normalcy. The cleaning up of areas in which floodwaters had receded also began today. The continuous supply of electricity and water despite flooding had contributed towards restoring the situation back to normalcy. Essential items which had been submerged in floodwaters were destroyed, in keeping with the advice of the public health inspectors. Certain segments of the Bulat-Sinhala-Molkawa road had been inundated as several small rivers had overflown after the spill gates of the Kukule reservoir had been opened. Area residents had to travel within their neighborhood using boats. Meanwhile, the Tavalama-Hiniduma road in Udugama had been inundated due to the overflowing of the Gin River. By-roads in Udugama, Gallandala, Katagoda and Gamagoda areas had also been inundated. The floodwaters of the Gin River have begun to recede. Floodwaters in the areas located upstream of the Gin River had begun to flow towards the downstream areas. Meanwhile, the water levels of the Nilvala River had been recorded at 5.75 meters today. The river had not reached flooding levels. Floods in the central region had also begun to reduce due to less downpours. A segment of road had sunk in the Muskelia area. However, no houses were damaged by this incident.
In Moreland making news tonight, 30 multi-day fishing vessels which left for sea from Kudawalla and Trincomalee have been carried away towards Indonesia due to strong currents.
12 fishing boats had left for sea from the Kudawalla Fisheries Harbour. These multi-day fishing vessels had left the Kudawalla Fisheries Harbour between the 19th of April to the 2nd of May. Those vehicles had been carried away towards Indonesia due to the cyclone. Attempts made by the communications centre at the Kudawalla Fisheries Harbour to get in touch with the fishermen proved futile. Additional Director of the Fisheries Department, Padma Priyatisera, said that certain fishing vessels which had gone to sea from Trincomalee had also been washed away due to strong currents. However, he noted that more than 150 fishermen who were in these vessels are currently safe.
Cyclone Humpin has made landfall near Sagar Island in West Bengal, India, close to the Bangladeshi border. The storm made landfall with sustained winds at 160 kilometers per hour, making it equivalent in intensity to a Category 2 Atlantic hurricane. Let's now take a look at how Humpin made landfall in India. President Gotabaya Rajapaksa paid homage to the Supreme Maha Nikaya of Sri Lanka, Amarapura Nikaya, Most Venerable Kotugoda Dhammavansha Thero today.
The president arrived at the Dharmapala Rama temple in Mount Lavinia to pay his respects to the Thera. During this occasion, senior journalist Upali Sambarasinghe presented his book titled Kotugoda Dhammavansha Maha Nikaya Hamuduruwo to the president. In addition, the Sri Lanka Amarapura Maha Nikaya Viharasthana Namavaliya, which was edited by the secretary to the Sri Lanka Amarapura Nikaya Abhiyuddhidayaka Sabha and former minister R.A.D. Sirisena, was also presented to the president. Meanwhile, Prime Minister Mahinda Rajapaksa called on the Mahanayaka of the Sri Lanka Amarapura Maha Nikaya, Agramha Pandita Most Venerable Kotugoda Dhammavansha Thera this evening. This occasion was attended by the chairman of the Sambuddha Sabha of the Amarapura Maha Nikaya, Deshamanya Ajit Dizoisa. Protecting school children is our responsibility. There is a problem at hand with reopening schools and universities, but other places have been opened, offices have been opened. I think we have controlled the situation thus far. The problem at hand is the spread within the Navy. We are controlling that as well. That will be decided by the court. Some people argue at court that it should be postponed by years and to postpone it by 70 days. Those all are invalid. Holding an election is necessary to uphold democracy. We cannot convene the old parliament which was discarded by the people twice. This is our stance.
Views regarding the number of seats given to the Sri Lanka Freedom Party in the nominations lists for the general election have continued to raise concerns.
The General Secretary knew that we were to get 1, 2 or 3 seats. We did not expect 6 or 7. That was also because some expected 6 or 7 spots, anticipating a split and having a separate list for Colombo. The Sri Lanka Freedom Party never had plans of contesting separately in Colombo. But a separate list was made and expectations were given, after which some districts had conflicts. If I go to talk about Tilanga Sumathipala, he will not get the votes he is getting at the moment. We asked for 8 seats in the Colombo district, but Tilanga Sumathipala said 2. When we tried to speak to the SLFP about it, he did not permit it. There are some people in our party working for other parties. The people of the Colombo district will take care of them.
What is happening with the MCC agreement? We now draw your attention towards certain views expressed regarding that.
The President has said that he is willing to cut down ties with international organizations that criticize us. I wish to ask him whether the MCC agreement will be signed. It was the US which criticized us the most within the United Nations. Some are claiming that a portion of the agreement is good. However, we expect a direct answer from the government. There was speculation that the agreement is to be inked to obtain $500 million as the government was running out of funds. Some ministers say that 3/4 of the agreement is good. But before the election, they said that they would tear the agreement. That is why we are questioning them. The members of the committee expressed remarks in a manner which left those who wanted to discuss the agreement speechless. Therefore, we have no intention to move forward with the agreement. We are totally against that. We are against the land development project in the agreement that will divide the country and pave the way for multinational companies to acquire the lands. We have said this before and today as well. Therefore, we will not allow this to take place as we are in government. Gammanpila said that he would resign from politics if the agreement is signed. Vimal Veeravansa had also said that he would do so. They said a lot of things. However, I don't think they would do such things. Basil Rajapaksa is a US citizen. Gotabaya Rajapaksa's son and daughter-in-law are US citizens. Gotabaya Rajapaksa himself is a former US citizen. Therefore, I feel that they might sign the agreement. However, I'm not sure about it.
News First continues to investigate into the proposed international cricket stadium in Homagama. We now join Jama Ratnayaka from News First from the newsroom, who has more details regarding the project.
Yesterday, we revealed to you certain contradictory details regarding the proposed construction of the largest international cricket stadium here in Sri Lanka, which is to be built in Homagama. Now, apart from the many victories, including World Cups and other series victories that our Sri Lankan cricket team has achieved, the impression and the memories the general public of the country has on cricket's governing body in Sri Lanka, or the Sri Lanka cricket, is a bleak one and an unimpressive, unpleasant one. The costs, or the exponential costs borne to construct the Suryavava cricket ground in Hambantota still remains a mystery. And moreover, the Kandy cricket campus, which was built and later transformed into a high-performance centre instead of a campus, also is mired in discrepancies. Cricket officials remain speechless when responsible authorities such as COPE members question them extensively regarding these matters. Moreover, cricket officials were unaware that funds which were yet to be received by SLC for broadcasting rights were transferred to funds overseas. Yes, grounds should be constructed for the betterment of the sport, for the upliftment of the sport in a country, and also for the viewing pleasure of the spectators that come in masses to view these matches. However, officials should also be vigilant to not harass spectators when they arrive in masses to view, to spectate these matches, and they should not come to a point where they apologize for harassing spectators who simply arrived at a certain ground to witness a cricket match. Against such a backdrop, on the 21st of November 2019, Sri Lanka Cricket issued a media release claiming that a ground will be built on a 36-acre land in Paduka. What is the current situation of that land or that construction at present? Let's take a look. On the 21st of November last year, Sri Lanka Cricket issued a media statement stating that it had signed a memorandum of understanding with Sri Lanka Telecom to construct a cricket ground on a land belonging to the SLT campus. The statement notes that construction activities of the ground will take place on a 36-acre land. The statement adds that SLT would do the initial preparation work for the ground, while SLC will build cricketing facilities. Among the work, SLC said that it would establish 5 centre pitches, drainage systems and other necessary facilities, including site wickets for training. The agreement had been signed for a period of 18 years with SLC and SLT, forming a management committee to run the operations of the proposed ground. According to the MOU, SLC will undertake maintenance activities of the ground, while clubs affiliated to the SLC and the SLT can utilise the ground. The MOU had been signed between the chairman of SLT and the secretary of Sri Lanka Cricket. Meanwhile, the island newspaper Today reported that the International Cricket Council is planning to slash down the salaries of its employees. A final decision is to be made during a board meeting that is scheduled to be held at the end of this month. According to the newspaper report, the Australian Cricket Board had also imposed pay cuts. Former parliamentarian Uday Gammanpila apologised for his statement that Sri Lanka's biggest cricket ground is funded by the International Cricket Council and said the statement was based on the information given by Minister Bandula Gunawardena. Posting a tweet on his official Twitter handle, Gammanpila said, quote, "I unconditionally apologise for stating that the proposed cricket ground would be financed by a grant from ICC, having relied on the information given by Minister Bandula Gunawardena," unquote. Former national skipper Mahela Jayawardena has responded again regarding the proposed international stadium in the country. In a tweet published yesterday, the former captain pointed out that the country had hosted a T20 World Cup and co-hosted a 50-over World Cup with the existing facilities. He noted that the infrastructure required for a World Cup is constructed using funds provided by the ICC after bidding for the World Cup. Accordingly, Jayawardena added that building a stadium for $40 million, hoping to win a bid to host a World Cup in another 10 to 15 years, is a futile exercise. Against this backdrop, shouldn't the officials of SLC reconsider the decision to construct a stadium at a cost of 8 billion rupees?
6 suspects who had sexually abused a 15-year-old girl in Sevanagala have been remanded until the 26th of this month.
The suspects were produced before the Amilipitiya Magistrates Court today. Police said that they are between the age of 17 and 20. The person believed to be the lover of the victim is also among the suspects. According to the police, investigations had shown that the suspects had allegedly taken the girl to an abandoned house at the time of committing the crime. The suspects are residents of Sevanagala, Indikola Palassa, Navodagama, Kiribba, Nara. Police said that the victim, who has been hospitalized, is expected to undergo medical test in due course.
An unidentified group has set fire to a house in the Vattawa area in Mathugama, leaving its family members distraught over the incident.
A couple, along with their daughter, who is only 7 days old, have been left helpless after their home was torched last night. The couple claimed that their house had been attacked on several occasions previously and that a complaint filed with the Mathugama police had also proven futile.
We went to the police at around 11:30. They didn't accept our complaint until 4:30 p.m. It has been only 7 days since our child was born. We were at the police station for a long time without food. It was a female police officer who offered us food. She asked me to eat the food and feed milk to the baby. The police informed the people to avoid damaging our home.
Today, former Deputy Minister Palita Tevarapirama visited the house, which had been set on fire. Two police officers subsequently arrived on motorcycle to the scene of the incident.
තාම ඒකට කට උත්තර ගත්තේ නැහැ මේගොල්ලෝ. ඔන්න හිතාගන්න මේක මොකද ගන්න. හරි අමතෝ මේක රටේ විහිළු.
ඔබතුමාට වෙලා තියෙන වෙන කතාවක් නෙවෙයි. ඒක
අපි දැන් මම මේගොල්ලෝ එක්කන් ගිහලා පොලිස් මූලස්ථානේ
දැන් අන්න ඒ උත්තරේ තමයි මට ඕන. ඊ රාත් ඔය කතාව කිව්වේ. අන්න කිව්වා. එච්චරයි.
රජෙන් දීපු පොතයි පැන්සලයි අපේ ගාව දෙකම නැහැ පෑනයි. අපි එන බලන්න. හැබැයි පොතයි පෑනයි තියෙන මිනිස්සු රෑ ගේත් ගිනි තියලා උගේ පැමිණිලා ලියා ගන්න නැතුව මුන්ගේ ආරක්ෂාව දෙන්නේ කියලා දරුවේ ඉන්නේ. අරස් කරන්නේ ඉතින් මේක ඊයේ පැමිණිලා ලියා ගත්තේ නැහනේ.
ඕ නැතුව පැමිණිලා අරස් කරන්න.
පැමිණිලා කියනකොට කොහොමද අරස් කරන්නේ මිනිහෙක්ව?
ඒක
දැන් පැමිණිලා නැතුව කොහොමද අරස් කරන්නේ මිනිහෙක්ව? ඒකට 119 එකේ කෝල් එකක් දුන්නාලු. ඒතර 119 එකේ ෆෝන් එකේ කෝල් එකට පටාස් කරලා අරස් කරා. ඒ අරස් කරලා කියන්නේ මේ ඇවිල්ලා අරස් කරා නෙමෙයි. ඒ ගිනි තියපු මේ අපරාධකාරයෝ දෙන්නව සෙවෙච්චායෙන්ම ඒගොල්ලෝ ටෙලිෆෝන් කෝල් දීලා ගෙන්න ගත්තා.
Upon inquiries made by Newsfirst, the superintendent of the Matugaba police said that the situation had been brought under control following a consensus between both parties. Should we all be responsible for such crimes? Shouldn't we spare a thought to the fate that has befallen this family, which consists of a newborn?
Standard and Poor's has downgraded Sri Lanka's sovereign rating to B as tax cuts made in January in fiscal stimulus, which were further worsened by import controls, raising doubts about budget and debt repayment ability as the coronavirus crisis slowed growth. The outlook at the lower level is stable. S&P said, and I quote, "We expect the COVID-19 outbreak to push Sri Lanka's economy into a recession in 2020 against early expectations of a rebound," end quote. The report added that this would weaken Sri Lanka's already fragile fiscal position. We constantly bring to you reports on issues faced by our farmers, hoping that it will be attended to by the authorities. One such report we filed in Maha Nikaya has led to the issues faced by the villagers being resolved.
While about 3,000 farmers engage in paddy cultivation under the Maha Nikaya scheme, authorities had informed them at the last seasonal meeting to cultivate land-grown crops such as green gram, cowpea and soya instead of paddy, claiming that the water supply in the Maha Nikaya reservoir was insufficient to cultivate paddy lands. And representatives of 15 agrarian organizations at the Rambavi Divisional Secretariat, permission had been granted to cultivate paddy on half an acre of land alongside land-grown crops.
That's a wrap of Primetime News. I'm Tarsha Kumar Singh.